Hi trader, welcome to Admiral Markets. This video will take a look at the impact of NFP on the US dollar last week Friday. But first of all, before diving into the charts, be aware that this video is intended for a global audience. It may not be suitable for everyone. To get corresponding info on that and other conditions and details, visit admiralmarketsglobal.com, select your country of residence, and contact an appropriate entity. Also, trading for exchange and global financial markets is considered high risk and may not be suitable for everyone. Please seek the advice of an independent financial advisor for more information on that. This video is for educational and informational purposes only, and by continuing watching this video, you agree with this disclaimer and you're aware of the risks involved with trading for exchange. First one on the list is the dollar yen. I'm looking at the weekly chart, and what I see here is a bit of an exhaustion wick. Obviously, of course, there's still a bullish body, but considering the daily chart, when we zoom in, we see a pretty strong bearish candle on the day of the NFP. I consider that a pretty good signal that perhaps this top will not break, and the uptrend that was in play on the monthly and weekly chart, as you can see very clearly, of course, here too, that could be over with this particular candle on the daily chart. So what I'm looking for is a break of the 4-hour support line here. Price is still in an uptrend channel, but a break of that could be the signal of at least, at very minimum, a bigger correction, perhaps like this, an ABC correction to retest the 123 area again, perhaps even as low as the 120s, where we have a bottom in play right here. So considering this momentum too, I'm looking for an ABC correction downwards. Now, price could certainly bounce off the bottom of this channel still, maybe make a head and shoulders pattern, something like that. Weakness in here is possible. It is a risky trade because this is still in an uptrend channel. A, let's say, more confirmed setup would be the break of the channel, and that could lead to the bigger correction. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on, the continuation of that bearish momentum that happened on NFP. Basically, we did have first a bullish reaction during NFP here. You can see price still made it upside, but then ultimately couldn't break through 125 before reverting back down and closing near the lows. So from my point of view, from a technical point of view, I see the NFP more as a bearish sentiment here on the dollar yen and the dollar in general than as a bullish indication. Pound dollar daily chart basically showing the same thing. It is still here in an uptrend channel with this particular support line very nearby and this resistance line. So we're kind of at the bottom of that channel, hanging around here for a couple of weeks as price is going sideways. Ultimately, if I were to be bearish, I need price to break at least below this support line, I should say, this bear bull line at 153.40. Until it breaks that, I'm still considering this a bullish zone. And of course, the breakout to the upside would be if price manages to break above these particular tops right in here, right, at about 156, I think, 70, 75. All right, so those are important lines for upside or perhaps downside. Now, NFP had first a bearish effect, as you can see, on the pound dollar, bullish on the dollar, basically, same as the dollar yen, but then reverted back up. Same story basically on the Eurodollar as well, as we will take a look in a second. So this particular pin bar looking pretty strong, I would say, right at that support level. Ultimately, I think there's a chance to revert back and reverse against this mini downtrend we had within this bigger range. Because if you look at the daily, obviously this is a range. Within the 4-hour chart, though, there was a bit of a downward pressure, and a pin bar like that could push it back up. Not all too great environment, I would say, the pound dollar. Not jumping for joy to trade this, but a hook back perhaps here, right, and a second bounce is something that I will keep an eye on the pound dollar. Before I take a look at the other two pairs, the Eurodollar and AUDUSD, these are the webinars of this week. We got live trading room on trend lines on Tuesday, Wednesday at 7:45 a.m. UK time. We have Forex strategy, so that's both days, 7:45, and Thursday at 4 p.m. GMT, 5 p.m. UK time. We have Mastering the Forex Waves, and this is part 2. If you missed part 1, the recording is available on YouTube on the Admiral Markets channel. All right, let's take a look at the Eurodollar finally. Eurodollar, as I said, also had that bearish effect, that bullish dollar momentum, but then a reverse upwards, and it closed near the highs, and basically this is an engulfing twin, this bullish, this blue candle here, totally engulfing the red candle before it, although slightly breaking the high and slightly breaking the low. It's still an engulfing twin. That ultimately I think is a bullish signal, but how glad am I to trade it? Not so much. Resistance is close by, 110 is close by. Those are pretty strong levels still to reckon with. So from that point of view, not much space to the upside. Ultimately, if price does break above 110.50, probably 111, there could be a bit more rally potential to the next resistance, roughly about 114 here. Of course, 112.50 as well, something of a psychological level, that quarter level, and then of course this trend line. There's a bit more space above that level. So I wouldn't necessarily ignore longs. I think that this is a bullish environment considering the bounce here, the double bottom almost here, the support line like that. It's just that resistance is close by, not a lot of space before we bump into that. So perhaps after price hits it, makes a retracement somewhere in here again, and bounce off that trend line could be interesting. Or ultimately maybe the break whenever that happens in August or September. Because of course with the month of August we know that things could get a bit slower, of course, in the first 2 weeks or so, first 2 weeks of August, due to holidays. Alright, so let's take a look at the AUDUSD now. The AUDUSD is an exception here actually, with kind of a bullish environment already, in fact, and the Eurodollar, pound dollar were a bit of a downside here, but the AUDUSD keeping its head up, and that stayed the same during NFP. Had some slight downside and a slight upside correction, but ultimately hanging around this resistance line. So if it breaks above this resistance line, that could be a breakout and a continuation of the correction that we've seen here on the AUDUSD. Something like this, perhaps up to 75 could be a good target on this 75.30 perhaps of this Fibonacci retracement level. So a bigger zigzag to the upside could be interesting upon the break of that resistance line. Of course, the support line, interesting too. If price does break through it, then there could be some correction, perhaps down to 73 again, or even 72.50, which are support levels and potential bounce levels as well. The correlation of the AUDUSD is pretty high with the Eurodollar. That's a neat feature of the MT4 Supreme edition, with 56 extra things for MT4 that you get with Admiral Markets, so that's great. You can see with this correlation matrix that the AUDUSD has a strong correlation with the Eurodollar, but not as much as the pound dollar. So, when trading, it's good to take a look at when it's not taking too much risk on one particular pair, but also on correlated pairs. So that's always interesting to keep an eye on. Alright traders, make sure to take a look at Admiral Markets and social media, with great content being delivered on a daily basis. Thank you so much for joining. Hope to see you in the webinars, and good trading. Cheers.